Aloha and welcome to Faith and Politics, where we aim to discuss politics through the lens of faith, both here in Hawaii and around the world. I'm Brennan Scarborough, your host. In this program, Leo Rodas reports from the One Impact Hawaii's Meet the Candidate event, where over 40 candidates were invited, but only a handful took the time to participate. In this episode, Leo interviews those running for federal and state senate, as well as Congress. But first, we begin this episode with part 2 of a roundtable discussion about the over-sexualization of children with Pastor Bill Stonebraker, pastor of Calvary Chapel, Honolulu, Shannon Lynn, a mother of 3 girls and a middle school educator, and Ed Arcalas, principal of Calvary Chapel Christian School. Here's their conversation.
If somebody does go into a lifestyle that we don't agree with, I always remember Billy Graham when he was on he was on the talk show. He asked him, what if your son was, because he talked about his son Franklin, who had rebelled, and then he came back to the Lord. But he said, well, what if your son was homosexual? And Billy Graham said, I'd probably love him even more. You see, so I think for the Christian, we have a basis. The Lord is the Lord of love.
Right.
When the woman caught in adultery was thrown at Jesus' feet and they wanted to condemn, it's usually the world that wants to condemn.
That's right.
What did he say?
Who's going to throw the first stone?
He who was without sin, throw the first stone. Right. In other words, look at yourself. Right. Where have you failed? Right. And if you're perfect, then you throw the first stone. Nobody did. Mm-hmm. And he said, where are your accusers? She said, I don't have any. And Jesus said, neither do I condemn you. But then he instructs her, go and sin no more. So in other words, what Jesus is saying, the lifestyle you're living, it's going to destroy your life. And so when we talk about a lot of these things, we look at the facts, we look at what is taking place and some of the lives of these young people who are committing suicide or even have committed suicide, or when a young woman, she starts having breasts and she says, I'm a boy, and they do a mastectomy. And then later she says, why did you convince me of doing that? And any kind of these hormone blockers and everything that's really ruining a kid's natural growth.
Right. Irreversible.
Yeah. Let me ask both of you a question. Matt Walsh's documentary, What is a Woman? A college social science professor gets very uncomfortable with the word truth. They even talk about pregnancy. Can a man get pregnant? And a lot of this weird stuff that you never think about. Have you guys looked at that movie? Have you seen that documentary?
Yeah, I watched it, and it was amusing because it seemed like the professor was having a tug of war with himself. And then Walsh talked about, hey, I'm just talking about the truth. And he wanted to fight it because he was banking on his higher education in gender studies. In the documentary, they take a trip to Nairobi and they interview the tribal men and the women. And they talk about what's going on here. Walsh poses the question to one of the tribesmen, would you want to go to America? He goes, no, not based on this. In the context of things, we're so backwards in the United States. And it's really sad. When you watch that documentary, it's really sad of how people think it's progress, but how we really degressed. They say that the biggest influence on a child's life is what goes on at home. And a lot of the kids now, they're not getting that compass or that foundation at home. And so now it's leading them to these social media aspects, or even worse, their peers. Because I do think peers have a very big say in the child's life. And again, it's like the blind leading the blind, propagating this lie, and then people buy into it. And it's really sad. I mean, any kind of research you do, you're supposed to go in without any kind of premise or any kind of prejudice, preconceived idea. But these people went in with a preconceived idea and everyone's buying into it.
So they say there's a bump in suicide with children that go ahead, or even adults that go ahead and do the transition. Any knowledge of this being an increased suicide after they've made the transition?
A young adult or even a teenager, they're being confronted with this. And I think there's a tug of war in their heart between right and wrong. Going back to this video with Matt Walsh with his woman, they interview, I think it was a woman, and he converted. He had all the surgeries and everything. He delivered children, so he had daughters and things. And he was in great turmoil. And he said, "What did they do to me? I can't get out of this." If you're being bombarded constantly with lies, and you're adopting that, but then inside, God has put, a moral tab in us.
People are so quick to push these changes and don't think about the long term. What happens when you do become an adult, and your feelings are, no, I was born a male, I want to be a male, but yet now they've gone through all these transitions and, like you were talking about, puberty blockers and things like that, and what's happening in the future to be able to get them to change back, and then that just causes a lot more issues and probably depression and anxiety and other things that go along with that.
When you interject something into a young child's life or a growing adult's life, it's dangerous. And unfortunately, we see where it's doing harm on a whole society.
Once you leave the Lord, once you leave truth, and then you're open for anything, when there's not a consistency in training up the kids, then the kids are going to follow whatever social media or their peers or, whatever is popular. And then if they do something that is drastic and they can't reverse that when they're older, what a tragedy. And you have to put it on the parents. A parent can be a great parent. In the Bible, you have great parents, and then the kids, are bad. You have bad parents and the kids are good. So it's not always that. But right now we see a real breakdown in the home. And a lot of it is because of parental lack of involvement.
Yeah, I agree with that. I see where a lot of parents are derelict because they have to understand parenting is hard. Mm-hmm. You have the child, but now you have to mentor that child and raise that child according to the way the Lord wants. And I see a lot of parents, they want to avoid the hard things. There's all kinds of voices, TV, radio, music, peers, social media. Mm-hmm. And, the child is going to respond to the voice that resonates where they think it resonates in their head. They don't know. They're not sure. But don't tell a teen that.
I was going to say, at this time, their peers are what's resonating in their head. They're looking at what their peers are doing.
Unfortunately, with the parent then feels like, well, their kids like their peers more than they like me. So the parent tries to become their friend. Mm-hmm. And no, children don't want friends of parents. They want the parent to be a parent.
Some of the best advice my mother ever gave me was, I need to be your mother right now. I have a lifetime to be your friend. Yeah. And I thought that's a great way to put it. Good. She is a good mom.
We've talked a lot about, some of the things that the kids have to go through, and especially the transgender agenda. You find that things metastasize. In other words, they don't stay the same. And all of a sudden you find they go down a slippery slope. And what do you think would be next on the agenda?
These sexual deviant things are no longer stealth. Parents, maybe they take their daughter around to these beauty pageants throughout the United States. Now they have parents that are taking their young boy to drag events, and putting them in as drag queens. It's disgusting.
Now, I never understand how a parent will bring their little real young ones to a transgender who's reading a story. Mm-hmm. I don't know, just a couple of years ago that the transgender had nothing under his skirt and, flashing to the kids. And it's like, you got to realize there's something wrong with a person in their mind when they're doing that.
One time my son was playing in a community league and they had a fundraiser event, and we went to the fundraiser event. You have little poo-poos and things. And the highlight was a drag guy. And I go, "What is this?" We left. And I wrote a letter to the guys, and he goes, "Well, we just roll how we roll." And I go, "What do you know? This is not, I don't think this is a proper representation of you as the head of this team or the organization or what this team stands for. Because everything I know, it stands for family. But yet you allow this in." So there's a little deviance there. Like in a swimming pool, when you're in the swimming pool and someone decides to release themselves in the swimming pool, you can't avoid that. You can't avoid it. You don't even know it's happening. We're going to pay the price to our young people.
People that have values and Christians and stuff, they need to speak up. They don't have to be angry. It's like Ed,
saying that this is unacceptable.
Making an issue out of that. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to speak the truth in love, and I think that's where it comes. A lot of this stuff is coming through legislation of, skewed players, because we elected them to serve us and to serve the community. They're serving themselves by putting these agendas in there. And so I think it's important, that like at our church where we have the voting drive, the voting registration drive. And one of the things I say when I'm announcing it, I said, hey, it's your duty and your responsibility as a Christian to vote. That statistic where it goes, only 50% register. And then out of that, 25 vote is a waste.
Yeah.
So we can't complain. The sins that are on the land, we own those too. And that's the way we have to keep praying that God's mercy would abound.
They'll push it in the schools. They'll have to push it in the schools. And some schools, they'll not have a textbook without that in there, teaching the whole gay issues. Mm-hmm. And so who knows how long it'll take to where you're going to defund or you're going to cancel out a Christian school that doesn't believe in that. Then the name calling because you're homophobic or you're hate or whatever that is. But if the church is silent, we get what we deserve. Shannon, you have grown kids and you have some still in high school. So you've been a parent. You've known the ups and downs of raising kids, where we're going as a society. What encouragement can you give to parents and those who are raising children?
My first thought that came is pray. Pray for yourself, for the wisdom, the discernment that you should have. Pray with your child. Pray that they will see truth, that they will have peace in their heart, and that they will be able to come to terms that this is just a difficult time in their life, that they will get through it. Like we talked about, they'll be able to get through this. Build relationships with your children. Have those conversations. We talked about communication. Have open communication with your kids from the very beginning. It doesn't have to be with difficult conversations. It can be with anything, but open that line of conversation with your kids early on so that when hard subjects do come up, they are willing to come to you. Have the sex talk, that you're in a safe place that you can talk to your kids about that. And so I always think like being in the car or walking with your child, have dinners together, things like that. Limit social media. You were talking about discipline. I think we as parents have lost that ability to discipline our children. Limit the social media, change their schools, do those things. Be brave enough and bold enough to do it. You're going to get pushback. There's going to be friends that probably push back on you. Your kids are certainly going to push back on you, but you need to do what is right for your child at the time. When our kids do have a lot of problems, we want to take them to doctors to have professional help, which is great. Some of these doctors, not all of them, but some of them are pushing so quickly to change them medically, whether it's with medications, whether it's their physical body being changed. Be wary of that. Don't allow somebody to change your child just because they're going through a phase or a stage in their life. These can have long-lasting effects. Love your child. Love them with your whole heart. Listen to them. Let them ask questions. Let them feel free to ask those questions. Walk with them, with Christ obviously being there with you, but you will walk through these issues and be much healthier on the other side.
Pastor Bill, do you have any words of encouragement to give those that are caught up maybe in the trans lifestyle or LGBTQ lifestyle?
I would say to those that are in that lifestyle that God can change your heart. You know, if you're in that lifestyle, it's a lonely place. And you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and great are God's works. You've been made in the image of God, and so He's made you. And there's that a void inside, and when you try to fill that void with a lot of different things, whether it be sexual promiscuity or homosexuality or lesbian, when you try to fill that, there's still that emptiness. And it's only filled by Jesus Christ and His love. And when you trust Christ, when you let Him come into your heart and into your life, He changes you from the inside out. You could have somebody standing over you with a whip and whipping you to try to change you, and it won't work. The change is not from the outside, but it's from the inside out. And it happens with the love of Jesus Christ coming in and breaking your heart and showing you what's right, what's true, and you are led in that way. So He does the work inside of you, but a lot of it is just saying, Lord, I give up. There's a lot of things in my life that are not good. And if, homosexuality is one of them, lesbian is one of them, could be a lot of other things. Lord, I want to give it to you. Just help me. We find that people come to church that are in that lifestyle. I just believe that the Word of God changes them because we teach through the Bible, cover to cover. And usually people will get it and the Lord will change them. Or if not, they might get offended and they might leave. But at least the Lord is working through His Word.
Ed, as a school principal, what advice would you give to parents dealing with their local school?
I think parents have to understand that they are responsible for the upbringing of their children, and they have to have courage to be able to approach the school administration if some of these deviant type of teachings come through. In the public realm, a lot of teachers, some of the pretty popular teachers, from what I understand, that are out there, they have these little drag sessions in their class. And I think that you as a parent need to bring it up to the attention of the administration. And if they don't go the way, bears witness with you and how God's speaking to you, maybe you need to, as Shannon talked about, switch schools midstream. I mean, that's a hard decision, but again, parenting isn't an easy pushover thing. You have to make hard decisions for the benefit of your child. If you're going to continue to keep your children in an environment that's not really conducive for growth in the Lord or bears witness with what's going on at home. And, that's why we have a lot of kids that are very confused to the point of depression, pressed to the point of ending their lives. Instead of allowing the teachers to concentrate on the 3 R's, they wanted to have this social aspect. I know when this was coming, not too long ago to the legislature and they brought it up, there was a big parent pushback. And so I think they sort of said, okay, we'll wait till the next term.
You can't leave it up to society and the politicians to make decisions for you as a parent. And as an educator, you've got to make those right decisions.
Special thanks to Ed, Shannon, and Bill for their insight. You're watching Faith in Politics. As we go into the break, here are some further resources on the subject of transgenderism.
Hey, I remember when Colo TV first reached out wanting to tell my story about my photography. When they released my story, people would approach me and say, hey, you're that photographer guy on Colo TV. That opened my eyes to how effective Colo is, broadcasting the gospel across Hawaii in creative and unique ways. I can't imagine not having a TV platform committed to spreading the good news in these crucial times. I now produce content that has a Christ-centered focus across various subjects, but I can't do it alone. It takes a community of believers fueling the work I do to spread the gospel to our culture 24/7. And that's why I'm asking you to please consider partnering with me as I create material that will influence our community with hope. Not just today, but for future generations to come. Together, you and I can make a difference through Colo TV. Thank you for your financial support that empowers the transmission of the gospel across Hawaii.
Hey! Did you know that Colo TV has an app? Well, we do. Have you downloaded it yet? It's filled with awesome content, including exclusive uncut material, and it's easy to download. Even your mom can do it. Simply go to the App Store, search Colo TV, hit the download button, and voila! You now have access to inspirational materials that you can watch anywhere. Download the Colo TV app today.
Welcome back to Faith in Politics. Next up, Leo Rodas reports from the One Impact's Meet the Candidates event where over 40 invites went out, but only a few took time to participate. Leo was able to interview those running for federal and state senate as well as Congress. Following the interviews, Leo walks us through important voting tips.
Kinsey, why do people need to vote? Why do we need to vote here in Hawaii? Why is it important?
It's important because we need to get the votes out that matter this year. Also, just a side note, we have one of the lowest, if not the lowest, amount of Christians that actually show up to the polls to vote. So let's get together and let's all make sure that we vote for the people that stand for the same morals and things that we do.
Kinsey, thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Conrad Kress.
You're running for?
I'm running for Congressional District 1.
Okay. And what, from your perspective, what is the most important issue facing Hawaii right now?
I would say that at the personal level, well, both are covered by failed leadership. And at the personal level, it's just the cost of living, inflation, and nobody here in leadership speaking to that, walking lockstep with the Biden administration and Pelosi Congress. At the corporate level, we have some significant national security issues going on that nobody at the state and federal level are paying attention to, and I can expound at that later if necessary.
Please do now.
Well, we have a whole, and I'm not going after the PRC people, but I'm going after the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. They are bent on war with us. They are already partaking in what's called a gray war. I won't expound here. You can look it up yourself or hit me up with some questions at conrad@conradcrest4hawaii.com. But they are doing an economic development program that has been pushing out. They had the first island chain, second island, third, fourth. They're all the way out to the fifth. So they're basically 1,500 miles away from us down in Kiribati, the Republic of Kiribati. They can, soon, they want to make this a forward operating base. And we are ceding territory, wittingly or unwillingly, to them. And we need to address that because that is a threat to our national security.
Conrad, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Blake, and this is from your perspective, right? What is the most important issue facing Hawaii's communities today?
My district is Waikiki, Makoli, Moiliili, Ala Moana, and Kaka'ako right here. So, as important as my perspective is, what's most important is what actually is going on with the people and the constituents here in my district. And so from being out in the field, out in the community, and really talking to people, I've learned that public safety is on the forefront of everyone's mind, to feel safe, to feel secure. And one of the top things I wanted to help with and bring to the future generations, our keiki, is strong character, civility, and a work ethic development, because I feel like in order to really get at the root of public safety and crime, it's going to be teaching our next generation of young keiki on the rules and a love for government and the people around in our neighborhoods. And so that is, I feel like, one of the number one things in our neighborhood right now. And I think we can get at the root of public safety and crime by focusing on our education.
Blake, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And what is the most important issue facing Hawaii's communities right now?
I think corruption, public safety is a big deal, and the voting integrity is massive.
Yeah, we've seen corruption in the news, and not just recently, but a long time now. How can we address that?
We need to get the right people in the right positions, people that can't be bought, people that aren't influenced by the corruption, by being just receiving money that's going to go into their pockets and not the people's. We got to give it back to the people. We got to serve the people. We are here for the people of Hawaii.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's good to meet you. Yep. Thank you.
Hi, yeah, my name is Joe Akana.
Joe, you're running for?
I'm running for U.S. Congressional District 2, which is all of the neighbor islands and the suburbs of Oahu. Basically, it starts from Makapu all the way up to the North Shore, down to Wahiwa, out to Wailua, and down to Ko'olina.
Nice. And you had a lot of really interesting things to say tonight. If you could summarize that, what are some of the more important issues that are facing Hawaii today?
Well, again, I think the most important issue we are facing here in Hawaii is our cost of living. Right? It's apparent that it's going through the roof. And if we don't do something to change it, we don't do something to fix it, we've got to stop this cost of living and high rising cost of inflation, right? We need to address those issues on the federal level. Because if we don't address it there, it's not going to happen down on the state level unless the state does something drastically different. And we have seen their propensity to say, no, we're not going to change anything. Or if they do, it takes a long time. So we need to definitely look at that on the federal level as how and what we can do to going forward.
Wonderful. Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. You have a good one.
And your name is?
My name's Ryan Malish. I'm running for State Senate District 9. That's Kapahulu to the start of Hawaii Kai.
And based on your experience and what you've seen, what are the more important issues facing that district today?
Well, not just the district, but the state entirely. I have to say that. So I'm running nonpartisan, which is the whole point of that is to try to bring in all the people that don't vote. We really need anybody who's just tired of the left and right, back and forth, or just never really gave up on politics or whatever. That's why I'm running. I want to really run for you people, and that's why I want town hall meetings. I want that communication with the community. I'm not just going to show up and be doing political panhandling. I really want to help the people because it's just going to get worse until we change our leadership.
Wonderful. Ryan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Have a good night. Thank you.
The August 13th primary will narrow the race down to 2 candidates in local races. So let's look at 3 things that you can do to prepare for August 13th and November 8th. First and foremost, register to vote. The easiest process is online registration via Hawaii's election website. There you will find the information that you need. You might think it's too late, but I've got good news for you. The in-person registration deadline is available up to and including Election Day, so you can register and vote on Election Day. The second thing is to find out about each candidate and their stance on various issues. So the best way to understand a candidate is to look at their voting history, bills that they've introduced, and how vocal they are. One source is their personal social media accounts, because they are always current. Finally, what does their character say about them? Issues like integrity, personal values, and family ties will say a lot. Thirdly, decide where you stand on controversial issues at hand. Be very clear about this and make sure that your stance lines up with God's word. So this is where you need to be praying for wisdom and direction in your voting. For Faith in Politics, I'm Leo Rodas.
That was Leo Rodas reporting on the One Impact Hawaii's Meet the Candidates event. As we navigate through these interesting times, we must always remember that voting is our opportunity to exercise our rights as U.S. citizens. We encourage you to register to vote and then vote. Let your faith determine your vote. Again, thank you for watching Faith in Politics. We continue to bring a voice to the faith community here in Hawaii through interviews and commentary. This program exists because of viewers like you. And from all of us here at Faith in Politics, thank you for your support, both financially and prayerfully. If you believe in the content we are providing and that it's important, please consider partnering with us. And be sure to share it with your friends and family. For those watching on social platforms such as Rumble or YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Don't forget to join us next week as we have a roundtable discussion on the economy. I'm Brennan Scarborough. Aloha.